What's up, Fanatics? It's 8 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means another episode of Home Theater Fanatics Live. Tonight is episode 116, and we have a whopper of an episode for you, because today we're not talking about speakers. We're not talking about chairs. We're going to talk a little bit about movies, but the thing that we are going to talk about that we haven't talked about on this show before is your screen. And I don't know how important you think a screen is, but I think it's pretty darn important, because without that, all you got is a stereo system. And, you know, those are cool, but we're all about the home theater. And to talk about home theater screens, we've got Chris Seymour. Hey, man, welcome to the show.
Hey, glad to be here.
Awesome.
Screens is what people look at, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's like a component. You know, I always tell this story. I was up in Boulder, and, you know, I went to a really nice speaker manufacturer here in Colorado, and you know, I went in to listen in their listening room, and this huge room. It's like 20-foot ceilings, and you know, it's got to cost like $2 million or something. And I walk in, and the first thing I say to them is, "Where's the screen?" And then they just looked at me, and I was all like, "I'm in the wrong place." I was like, "Oh God, no!" But man, I'm so glad to have you on the show, and I have so many questions. But before we get to that stuff, maybe you could take a moment and tell everybody who you are and why they should care.
Why? Ask my mom, right? Why?
Well, yeah. I mean, right? let's call her in. I mean, if we need her, we can do it. We can make it happen.
And special guest. So I'm Chris Seymour. I could have had a worse name for projection screens, but you know, Seymour. So
totally. I can feel like there was fate at play here.
Right. Chris Glaucoma didn't start his screen company, so so boo on him.
Chris CRT.
CRT.
Yeah, it could have been.
Could do this all night.
Let's stop.
So I started a screen company in my garage, literally. And my background is engineering, and we'll actually go through some PowerPoint slides that I've got put together.
We got slides, y'all.
It's only
it's
like 800 slides. They're all text, so I'm
just
sure
buckle up. Just put on strap all the way around, everything.
You'll find them riveting.
Well, so you're Chris Seymour, and you started the company, so you're kind of the man, the myth, and the legend of the screens. And you have a couple of different companies that you, I don't know, own or work with or something like. So there's Seymour Screen Excellence, and then I think there's Seymour AV. Is that right?
Right. Yeah. Actually, let me see if I can do like a window share here.
Right on. And while you're pulling that up, let's let me say hi to a few people that are out there. First up tonight was Double A. He beat everybody here, so he gets like 5 million extra bonus points. So what's up, Double A? Glad to have you. And I love this name, Darwin Morales. It's all like
nice.
I mean, he's like, I am Darwin. I mean, that's cool. And he's obviously super stoked for this one. He's ready for it. Jamie Blair's up in the house. We all love Jamie, and I think she's my only female listener. So thank you so much for bringing the female demographic to the show.
Represent.
Joey Peacock's up in the house. So Joey works for Acoustics, and he was super stoked for this episode. He's like, I got questions, man. I'm going to be sending all kinds of questions. I'm like, bring it, dude, bring it. I'm going to kind of churn through. So Mad Piranha's up in the house. Matt up in the house. Facebook user, obviously you didn't give permission to this tool to allow you to, do your thing, and let us know who it is, but he can't recognize you with your COVID beard. So obviously this is a buddy of yours, Chris.
Yeah, it's not the worst decision I've made.
I cover the ugly with mine. After I've discovered
Right.
that, I'm all like, oh, I'm keeping it forever.
It's to hide the COVID-15.
Right. Oh, let's not talk about that. Randy Wilson, welcome to the show, Randy. I think a first timer for us. Hopefully you'll be here every week, because Chris said he was going to be here every week, and he expects all of his friends to be here every week as well. I mean, you guys can talk about that after the show. Audio Architects up in the house. Keeping Up with the Joneses up in the house. V-Nake up in the house, and least but not last, or maybe last but not least, I don't know, Decibel Destroyer. He believes that only listening at 160 decibels is the right way to be.
That is authentic gunshot level.
That is authentic.
Yeah,
all right.
As the director intended.
Yeah, it's real impact. It kills you literally when you come out. You're damaged. All right, so I'm kind of super excited to see these slides, man. You got me all like.
That is the most corporate thing I've ever heard.
I mean, I gotta see the slides.
So I'm gonna go ahead and hit share here.
All right, and I'm gonna add to the stream, and then bam, like magic.
Shazam!
Look at that.
So roughly speaking, the company was started. The Seymour Screen Excellence. It's pretty easy to tell. It's two different groups here. The Seymour guy. And the Screen Excellence part came from my European colleague, Patrice Congard.
That dude looks like he could be in a movie.
He, in a caper film, I think would be his role.
Yeah.
Like he is a black belt, so he would be the action sequence. I would be the whimpering sidekick in the back seat. And he invented the woven screen technology. So he was previously with Screen Research and came out with the first woven screen technology. It had some
so he's kind of a baller.
Yeah, came from a background of acoustics and speaker design, and realized the benefits of a woven screen versus the industry standard, perforated vinyls. And we'll get more into that a little bit later. I was in the U.S. side of things and had a patent for a retractable design. And again, starting in my garage with this very DIY approach. Like I was literally selling the raw materials to people to make their screens with. Because that's where my heart is. That's what I enjoy. But having the U.S. manufacturing and service and just swimming in those waters, we realized that we could do more together. So I still have this Seymour AV company. It still exists. Actually, it's doing fine for COVID because people realize that they want to spend some money at home, and home theater is a great entertainment project, especially when you can't go to the cinemas, at least for a while.
I hear you. Oh, our mystery person is here, Brian, former Dyn Audio, and apparently he's about to do another world tour with his new company, flying all over the world, making me a little bit jealous. But nice. Welcome, man.
Nice.
Oh, and if anybody wants to buy like some top end equipment, I think Brian's got some subwoofers and stuff for sale. So
good.
Just FYI.
It's about the gear.
It is about the gear. All right. So
Seymour AV, I actually went to CEDIA in, I think 2007 was my first year. And I went there and realized very quickly that, actually maybe not quickly enough, it took a couple of years, but to realize that our product was very competitive in its performance. Everybody loved what it did. But the feedback was we need this in more packaging types, not just a retractable, not just DIY material. We want everything. We want masking screens, curved screens, you name it. And Patrice came at it from the angle of he had this technology, he had other technology, complementary technology, but being across the pond, it's difficult to service the custom market that way. So, we got together and local manufacturing, or at least regional, and combined our patents and materials, and gonna take over the world.
Awesome. One screen at a time.
One screen at a time. Because the fact of the matter is, the barrier of entry is pretty low for screens. I mean, you can shoot it on drywall, but where we're attacking is really that reference the performance niche at the top. So. Let me see.
So pretty much everybody here watching, they're all like, "This is what I need."
So, projection is easy. Really, anybody can do it. And if you have a video grade cow, you can have your screen.
Well, I was telling you, I grew up in Alabama, and this is exactly how we would watch this.
Yeah, I'm from Missouri, so it's not much better.
I mean, we had the reel to reel, and it just, come on, Bessie.
Right?
And
but I mean, the big competitor to projection screens is not using a screen. Just throwing it on the wall or a sheet or whatnot. But what we're going to argue is that this reference quality cinematic image and acoustics, that's really the wheelhouse that we came at it from. Our clients are mastering studios and coloring houses, so they're the ones that this is how they create the content in the first place. It's
this image is interesting because I think what she's thinking right now is like, oh my God, there's a speaker inside my head, and that's actually what's happening in the movie.
And those thoughts will come from literally right behind her image.
I know.
So, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
And I guess these days the competition would be not just TVs, but the phone. People are increasingly watching movies on their phone, much to Martin Scorsese's chagrin.
Sure.
So he's like, please do not watch my movie on your phone. So we argue that the guidelines are showing that 40 to 45 degree wide field of viewing. That gives you that nice cinematic immersion where you can get that suspension of disbelief. And just throwing a little math out there, if we had about 110-inch wide screen and diagonal is not quite 11 feet, you'd be sitting back about 11 or 12 feet from the screen.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty common dimension in a lot of living rooms. And so working backwards, not too many people have a 126-inch diagonal TV screen. So as impressive as the 65, 75, 85, or whatever flat panels are, you have to sit 6 feet, 7 feet, 8 feet from those to get that cinematic immersion. So TVs have their place. They're great for Dr. Phil. But for real film, it's super hard to pull that off as a properly immersive home theater image.
Makes total sense. And I think one metric that people really don't have a good grasp for, that really don't look at this stuff a lot, is they'll look at an 85-inch television and they'll say this thing is huge, and someone will say, well, I'm doing like a 120-inch screen, and they're like, oh, that's just a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
No, it is so much more massively large. I mean, it defies description for folks that really don't know. You have to see it to really get the impact. So, size is important.
Size is important, or so they say.
Somebody.
And again, it may be different if you have one sofa or one chair. It's just a couple of people in a small environment. The flat panel can get immersive, but as soon as you want another sofa in there to have some friends over, you're watching TV. You're not watching cinema. And we're going to argue at this a bit more into detail, but our argument comes is that when the screen and the speakers can be optimized together. Can you see my little mouse like picking?
Oh, totally. Nose? You're like all up inside her nose nostril.
Sweet. I'm sure she'd like that.
She's scared of that, by the way. Stop scaring her.
That's why she looks violated.
Whoever can name the movie first wins 10,000 points. Just call it out, folks. I know you can figure it out. Not impressive. You, Chris. You know who it is.
But so our argument is that in where we specialize, when the screen and the speakers are not allergic to each other, you can do best practice overall.
Sure.
So looking at some viewing angles, everybody has their personal preference when they go to the movie theater. I always, at every IMAX, see some guy sitting down here, which I don't get, but personal preference. But if we look at general guidelines, if you're a middle of the theater type of a person, you're going to be in that 40 to 45 degree wide viewing angle. And they're calling it ideal for a reason. That's right in the wheelhouse. You can sit further back. If you get under maybe 30 degree wide viewing, you're starting to get into the TV world of, that's maybe not as immersive as it could be. there might be some reasons to be back here if something is really a shaky camera like Cloverfield.
Sure.
Or anything with Miley Cyrus, then yeah, back row is great. Front row, boy, you've got to have like really slow panning, like the IMAX stuff where they're doing the hang glider through the Grand Canyon.
Right.
Really gentle things, because you could kind of kill somebody with that. So we say start at 36 degrees. That's the old THX reference. In a 16:9 ratio screen, 40 degrees is our current goalpost. And you can see that that's right in this ideal zone. And a scope ratio, that would be an ultra wide. So like a Cinemascope would be 235, 237, 239, 240. The really, really wide stuff, mostly film looking screen. You can go a bit wider. And the reason is that your vision isn't as overwhelmed as quickly with width as it is with height. Because as evolutionary creatures, we're designed to have great peripheral vision, but our up-down vision, you get overwhelmed very quickly. And
yeah. So, I mean, I guess if we had evolved with our eyeballs on top of each other
the other way,
then we'd be like, you can make this screen extra tall, but man, make it narrow. And, then the phone ratio would be perfect if we had,
nice.
right. I mean,
yeah,
that's
everything would be in profile mode or portrait mode. Yeah. But IMAX uses that to their advantage. So they go, you walk into the room and you feel like the floor's, dropped below you and the ceiling's blown above you. They use that sensory feeling of height to quickly overwhelm you and give you that feeling that, you're not in Kansas anymore.
That's right.
So one of the things that home theaters can do to improve the ability to get a good picture for people up front, maybe in the middle, maybe in the back, is number one, maybe you don't need 26 seats.
No, you need 26 seats.
I don't even know that many people.
I mean,
I don't even like that many people, really.
I mean, but you could sit around and just, look for like base evenness across the room and just be like, seat number 31 is where it's at.
I mean, I respect that you want to have that many people over. That's great. But there is a compromise to that, because this spread from the front row to the middle to the back, you can see the viewing angle then starts to spread out, and trying to get a responsible picture for each one of them is tough. In these multi-row situations, what we do is we try to almost kill the front row with size, because then the back row will be still a little underwhelmed, but it'll still be a decent picture. And a secret to improving that is minimizing the spaces in between these rows. The more you can squish everybody together, the easier it is. So you don't need to have somebody's feet on the back of your head, but you also
that helps.
Depends on the person,
but
really.
It's a better viewing experience.
Depends on whose feet, really. But having them reclined and a 4-foot walkway at the same time, try to squeeze that in.
Sure. Just say no.
Just say no. Another trick is just get the projector first. Shoot it onto a temporary surface, just onto the wall, pretty quickly. You watch a handful of things, you'll get a feel for how big you want it, how high you want it, and that reduces your screen risk for getting everything specified.
Well, and then always you could buy one screen from Screen Excellence, and if you're not happy with that one, you can just store it away and then buy another one from Seymour Screen Excellence and try that. And if you don't like that one, store it away and then buy a third. And by that time, you probably have the right size. Or
you could buy like 20 and then like return 19 of them. We love that.
That's awesome. I would just give them away as gifts.
Christmas employee gifts.
A screen for you. A screen for you. Could you imagine Oprah Winfrey just giving everybody one of your screens? She calls you up. She's like, Chris, I can't do her voice. Chris, I need 42 screens.
Nice.
You're like, okay, let's do this.
I actually can't comment on that one. Anyway,
okay. So here, let me preface this, because this is something I wanted to talk about specifically. And a question I always get, people ask me a lot, is when I select a screen for my theater, what aspect ratio is the correct one for me, right? And that, I know that is like a super broad, almost ambiguous question, but between the two different typically found aspect ratios, which are like Cinemascope, which is 2.4-ish to 1, and 16:9 or 1.78, what are the pros and cons, and why would you go with one versus the other? So that question gets asked a lot, and I'm curious from your point of view, being immersed in this for years and years, how do you help people make that decision?
Sometimes the decision isn't already made for you. The room might vote for one versus the other. So in the case of like a normal 16:9 screen, maybe you've got a width constraint. So you got taller ceilings, but for some reason you're limited by its width. Bookcases, sure. Who knows? But pretty quickly we qualify people into the 16:9 world if they're the type that really like to set it and forget it. My brother's the type that he never wants to touch anything but the on button, and that's it. So this is one where it matches your projector, you get things settled, and you're done. If you watch a lot of TV or sports, it's better for single row situations because it is tall, so you don't have any sightline issues. You don't have anybody behind you trying to, have the Mystery Science Theater 3000 silhouettes,
sure. Yeah.
At the bottom. They do start voting for being acoustically transparent more quickly because the taller the screen, the question is where are you going to put your center speaker? And if your answer is on the floor, then that's a problem.
That's the wrong answer.
That's the wrong answer, especially with multiple rows. Floor-mounted center speakers and multiple rows are a tragic combination.
Yeah, so I actually, a few months ago now, moved from a almost on the floor center channel speaker to an in-wall behind screen speaker, and the upgrade was significant. It made a really big difference, especially when I was reclined all the way back and my feet were kicked up, and it wasn't my feet that was was listening anymore. The sound could actually make it to my head. So yeah, it really anchored the image up, into the visual area as opposed to feeling really low. So yeah, it's a big deal.
And even though they say, we'll aim it, you can aim it up. Well, that's not the only thing. There's boundary effects, there's localization and imaging where it's from. We'll get into that a bit more, but these 16:9 screens being tall, center channel quickly becomes a problem. If we instead are watching a bunch of movies, you got a real film buff. About 70% of films are filmed in Cinemascope Ratio. So that's why when you rewatch, the Harry Potters, Lord of the Rings, you're going to get letterboxes on the black bars on the top of your and bottom of your screen or TV. And so when somebody says they don't watch as much TV and sports on this screen, they're going to watch film on it. That would be a vote for scope. If you don't have a width constraint, maybe you have a height constraint. You've got a duct above, or a soffit, or
right. Yep.
8-foot basement ceilings. Something that's constraining your height. Or maybe from the bottom up, you want to put 3 identical speakers below it that, not an acoustically transparent screen, but 3 bookshelves, 3 little short tower speakers. Those work very well as long as your screen isn't too tall. And so that could be a vote for going super wide. It's a bit of a tweaky combination because you're always going to be zooming, shifting, focusing. I would recommend lens memory. And so this is not the set it and forget it type. This is for the type that don't mind, a couple minutes of getting everything right for tonight's film.
Right on. And I mean, if you wanted to go fancy, you can always get a video processor that'll do auto scaling for you, right? And then keep it zoomed in all the time, I guess, if you're going that route, or you can go with a lens, right? And then the scaler really becomes impactful there.
Yeah, there's a lot of very complicated ways to solve this problem. You can even automate them to make them simple because, frankly speaking, the Hollywood A-list client, they usually have these shape screens, but they're not reaching up to their projector and adjusting things. There's a button on a pad, and they hit it, and everything changes. So there's ways to do that, but that can get pricey.
But ever so wonderful.
It's great for multiple rows. So if you do have that second row, the third row, the 26th row, the sightline issues are much easier to handle.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Now, of course, just because I'm a jerk, I put this Christopher Nolan. He makes his screens with these variable aspect ratio
Oh yeah, it jumps around all the time. You'll be watching, you're like, this is great, and then bam, you're like, oh, what just happened here?
Right. So
or you watch something like the Snyderverse, and it's all in 4:3 or something.
Yeah, so that I'm gonna add that in the future.
Yeah, I mean that's even
because that's going to be even worse. It's going to be like here.
It's like that's like the old television aspect ratio.
It is. And that would be a vote for going for taller screens, but
yeah,
aspect ratios are not going to settle out. In fact, they're diverging. I love Snyder for going to 4:3. I wish the IMAX stuff like Dunkirk, I wish that was in its full, it's about a 1.4 ratio.
Mm-hmm.
And then I love the Tarantinos for going all the way out to, what's the Hateful Eight? Was it like 2.7, I think?
Oh, it was super wide.
Yeah. But I do enjoy a little bit of paying these Cinemascope folks when they see their Chris Nolan films throttled down to a tiny Cinemascope image within their bigger Cinemascope image. So
you're so mean.
Yeah, I
love it.
Well, it's because we sell solutions, so we like to make fun of people first, and then help them out.
Right on. I like it.
One such solution is the constant area screen. This is the apex predator of all screens. This is the screen to rule them all. What we do is we start with a shape that's somewhere in between Cinemascope and 16:9. So nothing will ever fit it. Actually, there is some stuff that's around that 2:0 ratio. We call that the Netflix ratio, because that's the widest that Netflix will allow their content producers to make things like House of Cards.
Really?
Before you then have to go get special permission from the big cheese.
I had no idea. I did not know that was a restriction. So I need to make sure that I'm not any wider than that. But I'm 16:9, so I'm good. So Netflix, if you want to pick up this as a recurring show, just let me know.
There you go.
I'm down.
And so if you had a 16:9 screen and you could mask a little bit of the top bottom, you're going to have small letterbox bars, but nothing like the Hateful Eight type bars. But a constant area screen, depending on how sophisticated it is, can sweep all the way from this 4:3 ratio. So I am showing the Snyderverse here. We go out to the blue, that's a 16:9. We'll go out to this peach colored, that would be standard Cinemascope. And then if we throttle all the way down to this black set of bars, that would be the crazy wide stuff, like the Cinerama stuff, the Hateful Eight,
right.
Sleeping Beauty. There's about a dozen films that are wider than 2:4.
Yeah, that's wow. So now if you go for this constant area screen, the magic there is going to be masking, right?
Yes. So if we go back a couple slides, the 16:9, the width stays the same. Your top and bottom changes. So we call that constant width. In this Cinemascope ratio screen, it's called constant height. So the height stays the same.
Right.
Maybe
you do this.
It sounds
the
about
first
like
one
that.
is like.
And if you're lucky enough to have those side masks, then yeah, those come in from the side. With the constant area screen, you're probably talking 4 masks.
So it goes. I can't do 4 masks.
Okay, come on. Do you have like a chorus button you could hit? You just hit that.
Can't do it.
Careful there, you might pull something.
Too late.
We've had people solve these with varying ways, but this is the most complicated. But the magic, the result that you get from this is that when you're done, You don't care what shape anything is. It's all immersive and big and great and wonderful because it's all constant area.
That's kind of cool. I don't off the top of my head know of anyone that's running constant area, but I'm doing constant height right now. And I really enjoy that because my challenge in my room is that I've got 8-foot ceilings with a soffit at the top. So but I'm only one row. So, it's got to come down a little bit. So 16:9 doesn't really work well for me, but making it super wide and dropping an A-lens with a little bit of horizontal expansion, it's all good for me.
Yeah, you're talking.
Yep. Cool. So, I guess the answer then as to whether you want to go 16:9 or go a scope screen, one, what does the room tell you that you have to do, right? How many rows do you have, and what kind of content are you going to be watching? And if you kind of mash all those together, something's going to spit out. And then if you just have a lot of money, you say, screw it, I'm going constant area and I need a 4-way masking screen.
We do that. That's true. So this slide I'm showing, we have solutions that at like really all the price points. We start at the bottom here, this magnetic masking panels, and it's just a few $100. But you can take a 16:9 and you put these magnetic panels and turn it into a scope screen, or vice versa. Start with a scope screen, do side panels, and turn it into a 16:9. And then we have the next step up. We have an economical motorized masking screen solution. So it's a 4-digit number, and this is a constant width shown. So masks are top and bottom.
But you also do the constant height as well, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's either one or the other. I can't do a 4-way with this platform. Step up to the TAM platform. That's a 5-digit number. I can do 1-way, 2-way, 3-way, 4-way. They're bigger,
all
faster. Almost all the ways. I can do bigger sizes. I can go up to about 20 feet wide. But we have a lot of clients now that are pushing us to go even bigger. So like in this room here that was modeled after one of the famous recording studios, it required what we call our adjustable ratio theater, and that can be a 5 plus number. And it can be also 2-way, 3-way, or 4-way.
Wow.
So there are solutions, even at like a small cinema size. There are solutions. It's kind of our jam.
Cool. Well, now we know if we have the question of what aspect ratio should I go with, what screen do I need, this is the place to find out. They'll just come watch this and they're good to go.
Well, and just being from kind of the Midwest moderate approach, I like to cover all the solutions. So even if it's DIY, we sell just the raw materials for things and help out with them in pulling that off. So just a few $100, you can show off what masking does. And what does it do? Once you experience the cancellation of those gray bars on your screen into like a truly resized screen that fits what you're watching, it's pretty magical. You'll get spoiled and be a pain in the neck whenever you visit anybody else's home theater.
You really got to come look at my screen. You need this so bad. You got to do this.
Right. You'll one thing for everybody else.
Yeah, one thing I want to talk about, and I don't know if this is in your slides, and if it is, tell me, and we can just wait till we get to it. But you've got this great screen, and you've got your masking in place, and it makes those gray-ish bars go away, depending on whatever content you're watching. But then there's always the wall, right? So outside of the border of that screen, you've got some colored wall, and some people have it black, and that's great, but some people don't, and like mine's a dark gray right now. What is the science behind that? How do you determine what's an okay color for your wall and what's just don't do that, it's too bad kind of color for the wall? And how do you fix that stuff, other than I guess you just painted a different color? What drives those decisions?
We will cover that in future slides, but I've got a good picture up here. If we look at this top picture here, notice that he's got a black ceiling, which is great. They blackened the screen wall, which is a very popular thing to do. and that gives you that feeling of the screen is kind of floating in space, and it's a cool look. But for relief, because well, there are a few bat caves, but most people don't really want to live in a true, blacked out, all velvet bat cave.
Sure.
So you can see his floor colors are lighter, the wall colors are lighter. Technically, those are the surfaces that should be black, and this wall right here is the one surface that if you wanted that to be Lamborghini yellow, you can, and it's not going to affect your screen at all. It can affect your vision a little bit. You might, blow out some rods and cones, but
so you can get jiggy with the screen wall color, really? That seems a little incongruous to the goal,
Yeah. So when people get offended when I say that, I say just black everything. It's best. But think about it. If you're standing at your screen and you're looking out to the room, and you can actually see some light splashing off the guy's floor and off the walls, well, that's all splashing back onto his screen. And if you look real closely, his black levels, those are not like, TV black. Now, some of this is lit up because it's being photographed. So they had to light up, this six-figure
whatever that is.
It's very nice.
It's like an industrial steamroller.
So some of that is just trying to capture what an image looks in a theater is terrible. So what we always do is we always superimpose some stuff. Actually, I think these are legit, but these, of course, are just chopped on. So it's what you experience in the room. I got a few more slides on it.
Cool, man.
Let's step into the world of acoustics, because most movies we're watching these days are not silent films. So acoustics are important. So what we argue is, and I've been waving this flag, is that the image and the acoustics are inseparable. That's something that they have to be taken from a holistic viewpoint. Holistic meaning you're in the room to experience it all at the same time. You're not there just to argue what's the best picture. Fine, look at a flat screen panel. Nor are you there just to listen to a speaker. If you're there to watch a film, the two-channel guys are happy with their two channels. But in a home theater situation, you got to be doing both. And so what is the acoustic best practice and what is the video best practice? Now, I've already covered my argument for what is video best practice, and that would be get the screen cinematic huge, properly sized for however many seats and where you're sitting. And non-AT screens rarely pull that off. It's hard to do without compromising other stuff. Now, acoustically, this is literally exactly what our mastering studio clients are doing. All the speakers are behind the screen. They're not near the walls or the floor. They all match identically. They're right behind the image, right behind Mila Jovovich's cute face there. And that's how the content is made in the first place. So if that's what we're after, then that's what we're trying to replicate.
She's probably shocked because she's like, all the speakers are behind the screen. That's the shock to look. That's why.
I think that's literally what she's thinking.
Absolutely.
So if I win the lottery, in addition to maybe buying a cat shelter or making a cat shelter, I would probably buy a couple speaker companies just so that I could kill the center channel as a product line. I think it's a horrible product. It's compromised in so many ways. It's acoustically just a terrible idea.
But televisions.
Televisions. Well, use bookshelf speakers, or there's a number of coaxial and bookshelf speakers that are no higher than this train wreck of acoustic design here, and would give you responsible coverage. But
makes sense.
These things are compromised horizontally. They may be fine for one seat, but if you ever meet a friend, you're not going to want to play that for them. Comb filtering and lobing, unclear dialogue. About 75% of movie content comes through this speaker, and it's the worst designed in the room, always. It's located near the floor. If you look at this little weeny undersized projection screen, it's so small because I got to dodge these speakers. Image goes across, the sound takes a dump in the middle. And again, 75% of your sound is coming from your feet. So it's a terrible solution. In this cool person's room, he has a much larger screen, and the images are all, the speakers are all vertically oriented as they were designed to be in the first place. That's the only way that you're going to get horizontal dispersion. They match identically. They're perfect, exact models. There is no matching center channel ideology. You can't design a speaker and to behave identically when it's not identical. Image goes across, the sound goes across, the imaging is perfect, literally right.
I want to go to his house.
You
Already,
do?
that first guy, no, not doing it. But that second guy, I want to go to his house.
Yeah, don't be this guy. So he canceled cable, and don't be a creepy Rob. This is creepy Rob Lowe. Don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy.
I like to watch people swim.
Stop it.
So a huge advantage is when you're hiding the speakers, you can do whatever you want. Again, like our mastering studio people, the left, center, right are exact. And you can put a massive amount of transducers behind the screen. I think our record is about 20 kilowatts of subs behind the screen.
Well, that's a record that needs to be broken.
You can do that.
That's that challenge accepted.
I mean, I don't subscribe to peer pressure, but you'd be a lot cooler if you did that. So,
well, we're gonna buy a house in a few years. We're actually, they're building a bunch in a place that we want to be in, but we're like 3 or 4 years out from the time they're building where we want to be at. So we're getting things lined up. So I'm making plans. I'm 4 years out. It's happening. I'm gonna have 20 by 30 or something like that space to play with, can build inside of that. So it's going to be on. Looking forward to it.
Just a kid with a dream.
Yep.
One of the issues is in people's spaces do you have a dedicated room looking kind of like that giant theater there, or do you have a multi-use room? And most people obviously have a multi-use type room. But the way we try to differentiate between those two is in these dedicated rooms, you can have very large viewing angles. You have good light control. So not only can you turn them off, but you may not have windows. Surface colors are typically darker. And in these types of rooms, any white screen will look best. It's reference. It's what they use. Now, I would argue for acoustically transparent because obviously in this situation, they're going to want that left, center, right behind the image as shown. Now, in a multi-use situation, it's a little harder. You're going to have smaller viewing angles, probably not light control, probably not dark surfaces. And in these cases, this is where TVs shine. This is, or the class of projection screens that use ambient light rejecting technology.
Yeah, but they get to have Atmos with their television, so
yeah, they do. Yeah, maybe it's clipped off here, or with the Chris Nolan stuff. He doesn't even use.
That's right. That's Chris Nolan's room.
Yeah,
he's like, I don't even have those speakers.
He just wants you to suffer.
When he buys his new place that has Atmos, then he'll start mixing that.
Exactly. Let's hope. Ambient light. So as you can see, the light bulb here, turn it off. We've worked on, and there's other companies that do similar technologies, an ambient light rejecting screen. So this screen is doing a pretty good job of rejecting this light bulb right here. But it's hard to do. It's more expensive to do. There are trade-offs, and if you can turn off the light, the projection, you're always better off for doing that. Any of these screens will look better if you turn the light off or darken surfaces. But that's an enjoyable image, right? Looks pretty good. Now here is a room sensitivity question. So yeah, you've got your screen wall black, you've got your lights turned off. In this picture of this in-room here, you can see there's no lights on other than the projected image itself. But there's what's called, or what I call, splashback light contamination. So because of this theater's white ceiling, white walls, maybe it has a white floor, I don't know. light from the projection screen, the light colored boxes, splash off of those light colored surfaces and contaminate the black levels. So you can see the checkerboard pattern there looks pretty good, but let's see if I can actually play this or not. There's really nothing for audio, but let's see if I break my laptop by doing this.
Let's see if there's magic.
Right. So let's see what happens with their solution. Notice, just watch the contrast ratio.
Oh yeah.
Now that's look nice. That's how it should be. Now again, that's just, not everybody can live in the bat cave, so maybe you can only get 50% there. I tell people, $50 worth of paint will upgrade your projector image more than having the newest generation projector. So even if you can just talk the boss into getting to like half gray, or just a half, neutral tone, anything's better than the way it was.
So here's a question: have you ever heard of VantaBlack?
Yes.
So have you ever heard of someone painting their walls in the VantaBlack? I mean, and this stuff is like so black and inky that everything loses shape and dimensionality when it's painted with that. It just looks like a flat black hole in space. Anybody do that yet that you're aware of? And would you even want that?
It can be a little disorienting. So it can be like going into an anechoic chamber, where you don't get room reflections or cues that that you're in a normal room. And so we've had customers, because we sell the velvet that we use to line the screens, we sell that in bulk. So we've had people line their ceilings and walls and stuff with that. You can get a disorienting, like you can't see anything. You can't see your hand in front of you hardly. But it's fantastic for projection. I think our velvet it's much darker than a paint. It's a 99.7% absorbing. The only thing that absorbs more is that little postage stamp cube of that carbon nanotube stuff that guy on Yahoo.
Oh yeah, no, that stuff's awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess that would be an interesting way to go. So if you wanted to take velvet and cover your walls, do you have to do everything, or is there like a point where you can like come back halfway across the ceiling and the side walls and you don't have to go all the way with it? It just improve the more that you add, but then there's kind of like diminishing returns as you get closer to the back wall?
Yeah, totally diminishing returns. So like if this person's slide, let's say she's just sliding this back maybe 10 feet and the couch is right underneath that, you're going to be fine.
Right.
She didn't slide it all over all the rooms and everything. In my home theater, I just have basically to where the projector hangs and where you're sitting. So like this area is just kind of a slate blue. So it's a livable color, but dark and matte. And then behind that, it's just a white. So yeah, diminishing returns. You got to live there.
Yeah. So what I hear is I'm going to have to do some wall color changes here. That's my take home message.
And it doesn't have to be severe. Like anything helps. Just do what you can.
Got it.
I'm going to cut her off.
That was pretty cool. Whatever that product was, I mean, it made a huge difference, and it's just like, bloop, I pull it out, there it is.
Yeah, that was a European solution. They were just demonstrating. They had to have this multiple-use room because they just don't have a dedicated room, and this was how they're able to get really the best of both worlds. Yeah, it's a pretty neat solution.
Is it just cloth that she's pulling out that's kind of folded back?
Yeah, it's just like on a curtain track.
Right on. Yeah, that's pretty nifty.
We actually have a high-ender installation where he has the whole room is dark, but so that you're not walking into the bat cave. Lining the whole sides and the back are deployable projection screens, and then he'll project room lighting or wash ambient light But you could even do scenery. So it could be like the holodeck where you're walking in and like the aspen forest or whatever.
Oh,
You're walking in
that's
there.
awesome.
Yeah, you hit a button and those kill and those go away. But
Nice.
when you're creative and the money type, a lot of cool things can happen. Now, so if the screen is required to reject that, so think about the angles. So in this screen, this is a white screen. It's just splashing 180 degrees all over the place. It's almost like a speaker that's just got a very wide dispersion. But an analogy is if the speaker's walls, if these walls were a problem, like acoustically the glass might be a problem, you might think about horn speakers, something that's more directive. Similarly, screens do that. So we start to put toppings onto the anchovies and things onto the screen.
Oh yeah, it's pepperoni style.
To redirect the light so that instead of having this wide viewing cone, it's now narrower. And in theory, we can reject the ceiling, we can reject the white wall or white carpet or whatnot. And it works. But there are trade-offs because the more you're focusing the light, then you don't have the uniformity across the screen.
Right on. So there was one company, and tell me if this is really a thing or not, that produced a ALR screen specifically for UST projectors, the ultra short throws, and they have a image of a side cutaway, and it was kind of like this jagged sawtooth pattern. Is that a real deal thing?
It is. So it's like those stickers you used to get like in the Cracker Jacks boxes where
the ones that you could see different images.
Yeah, and you rub your fingernail on it and it makes the cool sound.
Yep.
So it's a light or reflective surface to the ultra short below it, and then it's a dark or absorbing the other angle of the plastic, so the rest of the room kind of gets eaten up. So yeah, it's a totally valid technology.
Very cool. All right. Well, I just want to call out real quick. Everybody out there, I know there have been a lot of questions that have come across, and I haven't got them to them yet, but keep them coming, and at the end we'll round up and try and answer a few questions for everybody.
Yeah, and what we might want to do is I was thinking of getting into HDR, but I think we may want to punt that to another
so
video.
That can be the sequel, part 2.
Yeah, because HDR is like a whole nother world of topics.
Right on. In part 1, we learned all about your screen, but in part 2, we will take you to the next level of depths of HDR. All right, so that'll be part 2. I like it. No, and man, when you start talking HDR and projection, those are two things that people are like, do they go together or not? Can it really work? Is it a thing? And I guess the short answer is it is a thing, but there's some discussion about it, right?
Yeah, there's some things about those things.
Nice.
So to wrap up the ambient viewing or rejecting of the side lights. So when we project at CES in Vegas, they have the ivory wall in the Venetian Hotel. They got the ivory ceiling, the ivory walls, and they really frown on us painting the room black. So we have to exhibit a more directional screen, one that's not splashing everywhere. So we have various materials. I think I'm at 5 now solutions. And they're at different angles, so maybe 50 degree, 70 degree, 45 degree. And kind of the point of this slide, the little nugget to take away, is not to be worried about too much the angle. We can step through kind of which solution is best for your compromised room. We'll try not to call it that. But don't be scared of viewing height. It's not, or this half gain angle. It's not like once you get to 50 degrees, the picture goes black.
Sure.
It goes to half gain, which because your eye views light levels logarithmically, actually looks 80% as bright. So that's one of the tricks I show dealers as we are at the Venetian at the CES, trying to reject their ugly rooms colors. And I
reject you.
I reject you. And I pull the dealer off to this, like the most off angle seat possible. And I challenge him. I'm like, hey, it's not bad, right? And yeah, because it looks 80% as bright. It's not that bad. I mean, it's not the money seat, but it's not that bad. So, yeah. So we'll save maybe HDR for another time.
Right on. Well, let's go back and see if there are any questions that are interesting, and I'll pull up some stuff. It looks like I think Hi-Fi Haven joined us sometime back in the episode, so good to see you, Hi-Fi Haven. All right, and I know, guys, if you have questions, throw them back up because everything's kind of scrolled off the screen, and it's kind of hard to get back to all the stuff. Kevin Sorkin from GSG Audio has joined us, talking about the 20 gigawatts of subwoofer power. He's the man. Double A says that,
1.21,
yeah, Hateful Eight Panavision 70 millimeter, maybe, I don't know, could be.
I think it was.
16:9 allows gravity to help with 235 masking. I don't know what that means. Gravity, the movie Gravity? I don't know. Huh.
Well, if he's talking about the top mask, that's a better.
I guess it pulls it down.
It pulls it down. Gravity's your friend. The bottom mask is super tricky, and we've got a lot of tricks of the trade. And how do you lift a bottom mask and keep everything like laser perfect?
So here's a question. So on the 4-way masking, how does that work? So I know, so Madonna. So you just bring Madonna out and she does it. So are the ones that move up and down, so they have to be independent of the ones that move left and right. So do like one set sit in front of the other? I guess they would have to, and then.
Yeah, it's layers. So you got your screen layer. So, and then right in front of that, we like to put that first masking layer almost touching the screen itself because we don't want shadow lines. Because if I put the mask out here, then you're gonna have a shadow line from that.
Right, makes sense.
Then if you're done, if this is just a 2-way screen, one layer is enough, and then you'll have a velvet fascia or the border around that. But if you have a 4-way screen, you're gonna have two masking layers, and then the velvet fascia. So it can, it's a multi-layer sandwich at that point.
So how far do the masks actually close? So I would assume that they just close enough to get you to a certain aspect ratio rather than just they can go all the way together.
So the full close, we're actually doing a big project on a yacht where we're going to do a full close, but that's super tough. And really, how often are you going to really close the mask hole all the way? So we don't really do that as a matter of practice. Usually you're limited by how much you can roll up, like on the rollers, top to bottom. So we'll cut it off usually at 16:9 to scope.
Right.
Now, if you get the Zack Snyders that really want things into 4:3 or the classic movie buffs, that top masking platform I have will do that. We can do like 10 feet any size or any of the sides. So it's just physical. It turns into mechanical problems. How much material can you roll? Can you keep it flat and tension and looking beautiful? It's a mechanical issue then.
That makes sense. So Joey, he's curious about AT screens and he wants to know, are they really transparent? And how good can you get now? Is it like you're down a decibel or 2 decibels when you have the speaker back there? How transparent can they really be?
So the argument against perforated screens, perforated vinyl screens, is that there's no speaker company in the world that would ever make their speaker grill cover out of perforated vinyl. They wouldn't do it because it's 90% not acoustically transparent.
Sure.
So that got us into the woven materials. And the woven materials, then what happens is it depends on the feature size, the thread size, the hole density, the weave shape, the mechanical structure of it. But we've gotten it to where if you look at, it's treble. No, treble's going to be over here. So if we look at 20 kilohertz, if we look at 20 kilohertz up here, a normal perf screen hashes up into your upper mid range, lower treble, and they say you can EQ for that. You can't. And we're releasing our own micro perforated vinyl anyway, so I can hate them objectively now.
We give you permission, hate away.
Right. But what the woven screens do is they push that up. Now the heavier, denser ones will still have some roll off right around that 20K, so it'll have a softening effect. But our top material pushes that out beyond 30K. So it actually just turns into a pressure gradient. So you lose about 1.5 decibels, but there's no frequency effect, no tonal effect. And if you just do a level calibration, 1.5 dB,
You bleep, and that's tiny.
boop, boop, then you fix it. And that's the material that the mastering studios use. So we're doing really well with them.
Awesome. So Joey's having buffering issues. Sorry, man. And then we'll get
there's
down.
a cream for that,
Joey, I guess when I see you at Cedia, I'll bring you some of the cream. Right. So here's a question: where when folks want to see a Seymour screen and really get the full on effect and figure out what's going on and experience it, where can they do that at? I mean, I assume you guys are going to do shows when they open back up and start happening again, and then maybe folks will be able to go and see stuff at local dealers. That's
tough. Yeah, I mean, they're disappearing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's not a lot out there. So are you guys doing Cedia?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we've done Cedia every year since 2007. So we have a sound room there. It's a little tough for the average public to get in, but you can get in. Give me a call.
I'll be there.
I can get you in.
I'll totally get you in. Be there. I should have my.
So we have a demo. We have a sound room there, so I'm able to actually show things off, and challenge people. Go put your nose up to the screen. You can't see any weave, any hole, any texture, nothing. Like, does it not look like a solid screen? So that I can appeal to some skeptics, and that's my mantra. Is the magic of the demo, and one demonstration at a time. Is you gotta show them what's possible.
Right on. So, one question I think is common is this one. So keeping up with the Joneses, he's like woven versus perforated, please. And we've talked about that quite a bit. One thing that I've really noticed with perf screens outside of sound and just from a visual point of view is if you're too close, they are horrible, right? Because that perf is not subtle if you're too close. So the experiences that I've had, and tell me if this is typical, but you got to get far enough back away, 10, 12 feet or something before it looks like a solid piece of material. And with woven, like you said before, I mean, you just get right up on it and, it's good to go. But I could, too close to a perf screen and I'm all like, oh, that's a perf screen. I can see dots.
Well, now most of the woven screens also have a minimum seating distance. So at that 10, maybe, we got some at 6, but you say 6 to 10 to 12 feet, you could see then a texture. And so it looks like you're almost imparting this kind of texture or linen or whatever onto your image. So there is a minimum seating distance. Now, we have the Enlighter Neo that there is no minimum seating distance. So it's the one I put in these guys' hands.
That's awesome.
I'm like, do this. So that's solvable, but that's not everywhere. So the one thing I'll give perforated, the fundamental advantage that perforated can do is that you can start off with a material that has optical coatings. So you can get those positive gain screens, like the Firehawks, the Black Diamonds, the Slates, our Ambient Visioneers. You can only achieve those by depositing onto film type or laminate type substrates. You can't do that with anything woven. Wovens are always going to be a unity gain or lower.
Sure.
So, and there's advantages to lower gain screens. It's not an awesomeness number. I've actually argued that the future should be brighter projectors and lower gain screens. So acoustically, though, there's massive benefit because the holes per square inch are 10 to 100 times higher.
Right.
The equalization then can go away, so there's no EQ effect, there's no tonal effect, there's no comb filtering or lobing, which is a chaotic result that you can't correct for anywhere but one place. So yeah, if the room's appropriate for a white screen, I would always argue that the wovens can be best practice.
That's the one to go with. Awesome.
But if you need the Firehawk, then get the Firehawk. I've sold more Firehawks than has been reciprocated, I promise.
Firehawk.
That's fine. It's what's best for the room. So
right on. Cool. Well, we are beyond our hour, so I think we're going to have to put a cork in this one and then to be continued next time around, where we can get into a little HDR talk, and maybe some of the more esoteric stuff. Although I don't know if it's really esoteric, but you guys, one thing that I thought was kind of cool is you guys make a screen light. I don't know what is it? Just it's the LED light, so you can get 6500K or something around the screen and I want to talk about that because, I see a lot of folks, they like make their walls like green and it flashes with the thunder and lightning and that kind of stuff behind their screens. And I'm all like, oh God. Right. I mean, that's, I'm not really down with that, but, apparently this is a different kind of thing. And, maybe next time we can talk about that a little bit. And in between now and then, folks that are really interested in what that is, maybe they can go do a little research and find out what the Seymour product is. And what is it called?
Bias lighting kit.
Yes, that thing.
And so we called it the bias lighting kit, and we can get into why. But the short answer is that the red, purple, and green disco lights, it's not good. Don't be that person. Just
say no.
Don't be that person.
Cool. Right on.
There's legitimate reasons to be doing something, just not that.
That's the.
Oh my God.
All right. Okay, folks. Chris, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. I'm super excited to see you at CEDIA and come check out all the technology and see it up close and in person. And hopefully, other folks, if they're out there and they want to go to CEDIA, they'll be able to make it out there too. I'm just, that's my favorite show of the year because it's not like just 2-channel audio. It's all this home theater or CI space. And that's the kind of area where I like live and breathe and swim at. So it's perfect for me. Everybody else
do Expona, but then they've kind of imploded in some ways. We might be at Rocky Mountain this year too. So
cool. Well, I'll be at Rocky Mountain for sure because it's like just right over there for me because I'm here in Colorado. So
you have to put pants on.
I don't have pants on now. Nobody in Colorado wears them. Yeah, we got past that. We've evolved to a new level of being. But yeah, no, if you can make it to Rocky Mountain, that'd be even cooler. Let me know. I'll call Marjorie and I'll be like, hey, Marjorie, give him a free room. I'm sure she'll say no. Sorry. Don't mess with my business. Everybody out in the audience today, thank you so much for watching. Like I tell everybody all the time, everybody's time is precious, and the time that you spend here with us is the best gift that you could give to me. So hopefully you got some value out of the show. I know. And then one of these, the little one, the little heart.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. So I saw somebody do this. I'm like, what is that? And they're like, oh, it's a little heart. And I'm like, oh, so that's the big one, and then that's the little one.
Does it flutter?
Yeah. Oh, that's a butterfly. I don't know. Oh, anyway, Chris, thank you so much. Everybody, Seymour Screen Excellence, because with Seymour Screen Excellence, you get to see more screen excellence than you would with any other brand.
I hadn't thought of that.
I'm sure you've never heard that one before. Trademarked. All right, everybody.
My lawyers will be in contact.
Oh, right on. Yeah. 8 digits. That's all I'm saying. It's 8 digits. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week for episode 117.